Welcome to this LinkedIn Live event in which I'll be working with my guests to answer the question, what's driving the adoption of digital printing and packaging? My name is Jeremy Jones and I'm the Global Marketing Director here at Domino, based out of our headquarters on the outskirts of Cambridge in the UK. This is actually the fourth LinkedIn Live event that we've done, and I suppose I've gone now from being just old to being a bit of an old hand. So hopefully this will go off without a hitch. Our previous topics have covered productivity or sustainability. Do manufacturers have to choose? With Dr. Andreas Schroeder from the Advanced Services Group and Domino's Adem Kolozovic. We also did labelless PET bottles with Domino's Craig Stobie and Russell Wiseman. And then the last one was smart packaging with 2D codes with Camilla Young from GS1 and Domino's Nigel Allen. I'm really excited by today's discussion, not just because of the quality of the guests, but also because this is an area that I'm perhaps less familiar with. So I'm looking forward to actually learning a great deal. Today's guests are Corey and Russell. Corey's a true industry expert, and I suspect already familiar to many of you on today's session. He's president and CEO of Alexander Watson Associates, or AWA, which is a global business-to-business market research, publishing and advisory services company with a specific industry focus on specialty paper, film, packaging, coating, and converting industries. AWA publishes a broad portfolio of market research studies, undertakes private client research into the aforementioned markets, and organizes international conferences, workshops, and training programs. So a genuine expert in the topic for today. So welcome, Corey. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Is there anything that I've missed that you would like to add to that little kind of potted history of your career so far?
Yeah, just a few things. As you can tell by my accent, I'm originally from America, but I've lived.
We won't hold that against you, don't worry.
Thanks. I've lived in the Netherlands for over 30 years and outside the US much longer than that. In my career, I've spent time in Belgium and Hong Kong, Taiwan, and eventually made my way to the Netherlands. One of the, I think, relevant areas of AWA's focus, which I think is worth mentioning, is one of the key verticals that we have our subject matter expertise in is labeling and product decoration, of which is an area that digital print in the context of packaging is used more and more. And that includes labeling and product decoration in all formats, pressure sensitive, shrink sleeve, glue applied, in mold, and even direct print to container. So that's an area of focus that AWA has, which I hope to contribute some of that knowledge and subject matter expertise to this conversation.
That's fantastic. So you've got a true global perspective and a broad range of market application insights. It's brilliant to have you here. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm also joined by Russell Weller, who's Domino's Head of Product for Digital Color. Russell's worked across a number of different arms of the print industry, from commercial print and wide format to labels, corrugated, and packaging. He's held senior positions in several technology organizations, driving innovation and successfully launching many market-leading technologies through roles at Hycon Systems, GMG Color, Kongsberg PCS, and ESCO before joining Domino. Welcome, Russell, as well.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thanks for the introduction.
Again, same question to you. Is there anything that I've missed out that you'd like to add for the audience?
Yeah, thanks for the background introduction. Print and packaging is my passion. I'm been in the industry now for close to 30 years, and my role very much here now in Domino is to understand the challenges today and bring technology that meets those challenges, but also understand what are the challenges of the future, and to bring technology and understand the strategic direction of the market. And to bring technology to be able to meet those challenges that we see our customers facing today. So that is very much my passion and very much my role inside of Domino.
Fantastic. Well, again, welcome. You probably have less option to not join, given that you're part of Domino, but yeah, I appreciate the time because I know how busy you are at the moment, that you're flooded with all sorts of stuff. So I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. So as usual, we've got about 40 minutes in total where we'll step through a few questions and have a discussion around this kind of headline topic, and then we'll open it up to questions. So please use the chat to submit your questions, and we'll try to get to them at the end. Now, a warning there, as my team would tell you, I'm a notoriously bad timekeeper. So if we run out of time and don't get to your particular question, don't worry. We will follow up after the event and make sure that we answer every single question that's submitted. So please do use the chat to put your questions forward. Right, well, that's it. Let's get underway. So Corey, I'm going to open it up first with you and ask you, on the basis of your expertise and your experience across such a broad range of markets, what trends do you see in the label and packaging market for 2025?
Yeah, good question, Jeremy. I think also the 40 minutes could be a very long time or no time at all. But I think given the subject and who's on this panel, it'll go by really quickly.
Yeah.
When we talk about the trends in the labeling and packaging market, I think it's important to maybe divide those into two categories: the macro trends, which may be more general, not just related to the packaging label market, and then specifically, but nonetheless important and impactful, and specifically some micro trends that may be directly relevant to labeling and packaging, even digital printing specifically. Of course, the macro trends include, GDP growth and just economic growth, what's happening in the world in terms of social, political, and economic, dynamics, trade dynamics, which we're seeing very prevalent today. How that will all turn out, that's not the subject of today's discussion, but certainly has a profound impact on the labeling and packaging sector in general. If we go back to COVID and the positive impact that some of the dynamics around COVID had on packaging and labeling, with spikes in demand and demand growth, and then that was followed by trends around destocking, and which had negative effect on the industry. We're back to more of an equal balance, not high growth, but a little more predictable growth going into 2025, which is important to talk about in terms of trends, which are general in their sense, but relevant to what's happening in industry. I think some other general trends, that are worth talking about is AI and the impact that AI is and will have in the industry, moving forward. And other technology trends that, in terms of automation, in terms of just technology in general, and how that's going to help drive growth. It's going to drive change in the packaging and labeling sector. And as we talked about that, we talk about technology in terms of print technology, digital print, et cetera, and what are some of the drivers and what are the trends happening there that'll impact the industry. And I think quick product to market is a driver that is driving some of these trends. Adapting quickly to market changes, consumer preferences, which is not only becoming faster, but also more customized, from a consumer standpoint. And that's all driving trends in labeling and packaging. Also, you can't talk about trends in labeling and packaging without the subject of sustainability, which I think we might cover a little bit more in the discussion. But that's certainly a trend that is driving a lot of change, a lot of innovation in terms of packaging materials and labeling materials, as well as the use and the amount of packaging that's being used, which will have an effect on the whole value chain, moving forward. But those are just some of the highlights in terms of the macro trends and some specific, micro trends that I think are generally affecting the label and packaging sector. And I think some of them we'll talk about a little more in depth as we proceed in this discussion.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a really good scoping. So, there's lots of things to unpick there. Russell, I'm going to ask you to help me unpick some of those. So, we had the macroeconomic environment and supply chain challenges caused by all the kinds of issues going on globally around the world, but also there are things like AI, things like sustainability, short run times, flexibility, etc., that are generally impacting manufacturing of all sorts, but clearly, obviously, more so in printing and packaging. So, what would you say are the impacts that these trends are likely to have for converters?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at our converter space today, we look at our core customer base. I mean, obviously, what's driving their kind of behaviour is really from the brand owner. So if we look at what the brand owner is looking for today, and probably has been looking for a number of years, but continues to drive that adoption of kind of digital and the trends, is very much that short run packaging that Corey touched on, and that short run packaging could lead to MOQs, minimum order quantities. That could be whether it's a regional campaign where every 50, 100, 200 pieces of packaging needs to be different. It could be just-in-time packaging, so they're only printing exactly what they require, or it could be a time to market, so a reduction in the lead time of the actual packaging. They're also looking for enhancements on their kind of applications of what they're producing, and that could be a visual enhancement, so something that kind of helps the impact of the label itself, so something that really stands out when it's on the shelf of the supermarket, for example, whether that's a piece of packaging or a label, or technology that can be driven into that label through 2D barcodes that really helps drive that campaign and brings different initiatives around that campaign. Digital very much helps all of those elements come together and really help drive where the brand owners are going. And of course, wrapped around all that is cost. I think everybody's looking at driving cost, whether that's from efficiency, whether that's from the actual cost of the label itself, but that's somewhere it's obviously everybody's striving to get to, and that really goes back to that short run packaging as well, only really printing what you need and not having that increase of waste that not necessarily is needed as part of that campaign.
Can I ask you to go into a little bit more detail specifically around what is it about digital printing specifically that addresses some of those issues? So can you give us, for those that don't know digital, that are traditional printing, and can you give an example or a few examples of exactly why digital printing specifically is adding value to those customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, sorry, was that for me? Yeah, Jeremy, sorry.
No, I think it's for you, Russell. I just had to maybe add to the question from my standpoint. When you talk about digital in general, and you're really more the expert on digital, we're talking about print on demand. Is a characteristic of digital in general versus the business model of print for stock and holding the stock, and the implications of those two models and in business today and in the industry.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Corey. Russell, anything else that you wanted to add to?
Yeah, thanks for that, Corey. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of where digital can support, I mean, first of all, if we look at the kind of ever-reducing lead times that they're looking for in the short run, digital's rapid setup. You can set up digital in minutes. It's a digital file, and you load the media, and pretty much away you go. Where analog technology, there's a much longer setup time. And sometimes in short run, it can take longer to set up the job than actually print it. So digital can really help in that space. In terms of new applications, in terms of supporting there, that really comes down to the ability to have every label or every piece of packaging could be different. So everyone could contain a different barcode. They could contain, a different piece of image or artwork that's actually on there that really helps drive the impact of that particular product or that particular campaign. That is only possible with digital. And then answering the kind of cost question, digital is in most instances cheaper to produce in terms of the label itself. But it's really about efficiency, and it's really about having the right piece of technology for the right job. So we're not saying here that digital can replace everything. Absolutely not. Digital coexists with technology that's already out there. So the short run work, go digital because it's more efficient. That creates capacity on your existing analog equipment that can get more work and obviously keep the longer runs on there. That makes that more efficient and then more cost effective as well. But there's also the options to combine technologies, so such as hybrid technology. So have a digital in line with your flexo, now you've got the best of both worlds. So you can have flood coat, luminous inks with the capabilities of every single job could be different from a digital point of view, with embellishments in line and also finishing. So that really helps drive efficiency, the reduction of the overall time it takes to produce the job, and also from an unattended operation, we're producing that label all in line, all on the same piece of equipment. So digital can help in many factors on its own or alongside of existing analog equipment.
And that, I think, is all done on demand, which eliminates expensive inventories, as well as inventories that may become obsolete over time, which, when we go back to, I made a comment, and one of the trends on sustainability is really a sustainable solution in terms of addressing, what every brand owner has in terms of, metrics that they're trying to meet on reducing waste, which could be impacted really immensely by this.
Thank you, guys. And I mean, certainly operational costs, production efficiency, all those kind of things are going to be high on the agenda for pretty much any converter that's out there today. Russell, you mentioned hybrid and that it can offer you kind of the best of both worlds for certain applications. Can I just ask you to expand a little bit more about the types of jobs that typically end up on a hybrid model? I mean, clearly there's variable data associated with it. Is it direct to consumer engagement? Is it traceability? What's typically driving that kind of hybrid growth?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we are seeing a real increase, and we're kind of forecasting that moving forward in terms of hybrid. There's a lot of demand for that right now, and our technology we're developing is to meet that demand. The first kind of driver really is that unattended operation, and that really is that efficiency gain and also that time saving. So what a customer doesn't want to do is print on one piece of equipment, then have to move to do embellishment on another piece of equipment, then perhaps move to another piece of equipment for doing the finishing, etc., etc. Hybrid allows you to do everything on that one piece of equipment. The benefits really are there that obviously digital can't perform everything. I touched on earlier things like luminous inks or flood coats of a particular type of ink onto a material, whether that's priming, pre-priming. Digital can't meet those demands, but digital can meet, as you touched on, Jeremy, it can meet, every single print can be different. We can put barcodes on there, and every barcode can be different. So you can mix the technologies to take advantage of those. So you can put down, flexo inks initially. You can then print digital on top of that, and every image can be different. You can then go through to complex embellishments, gold foil blocking, all in line, and then also a finishing station on the back end of it. So that's really where we're seeing the meeting the demand of the brand owner to get the label more impactful on the shelf, which digital can't cover all of that. Yeah. Digital can cover the element of every artwork can be different, but really it's efficiency. It's about having that one job produced on that one piece of equipment. That is really what is driving the adoption into the converter space.
But clearly it expands the book of work that you can bid for, the types of printing stuff. Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too to note that there was a period of time where, from a market research standpoint, we can easily differentiate digital from conventional technology, and that over the last years has become very cloudy in terms of the introduction of hybrid machines that you can't categorize them as digital or as conventional so easily. So it certainly speaks to the fact that the market's changing, and digital in conjunction with conventional has come together to create a solution that you can only create with the two formats.
Yeah, absolutely, and we very much see it's not just kind of one size fits all. We very much see our kind of customer base converters that they will invest in all types of the technology. So just a roll to roll for kind of standard labels, perhaps a flexo line for the really long run lengths. That's standard type work, and then a hybrid line for what we spoke about and the benefits that brings. So it really is down to having the right piece of equipment for the right job, and that's where you can get that efficiency gains from, which helps that cost conversation dramatically.
Yeah, and certainly also just highlights the flexibility of the packaging labeling, value chain, which we had to prove, during times like COVID, but we continue to prove it with technology and the conversion of different print technologies to be more flexible and more adaptive to, ultimately the brand owner's needs.
Fantastic. Guys, I want to take us in a different direction. Corey, you already mentioned the S word, sustainability, and things such as environmental impact. But I want to just put a reminder out to everybody that's on the session that, please continue to use the chat service. Put your questions in there. We will try and get to the questions. I'm looking at a clock that I've got set up over here, and I realize that we're probably not quite as far through as we need to be by this time. But please keep doing them. We will try to get to the questions at the end. And as I said, any that we don't answer, we will follow up with and get you an answer afterwards. So please use the chat to put your questions to the guys, and I'll make sure that you will get the benefit of their wisdom either today or in the follow-up. Thank you. So moving tax just a little over to kind of more environmental considerations. We've mentioned that there's a cost saving associating with reducing overstocking, of course, but there's also an environmental beneficial impact of doing so as well. And nowadays brands still have to meet sustainability reporting requirements, and there are regulations such as the packaging and packaging waste regulation, or PPWR, which is aimed at reducing packaging, improving recyclability, and overall packaging sustainability in the long term. So how can digital printing technologies contribute to more sustainable production practices? And Corey, I'll come to you first. Is there an aspect of sustainability or the regulations that you'd like to comment on in this context of the background to PPWR or the change in the market and kind of the focus on sustainability? And then Russell will dig in with you, if that's okay, into digital specifically. So Corey, an aspect of sustainability that you'd like to pick up.
Yeah, I think when we talk about sustainability, there's so many different facets to it. And, I know we want to keep focused on digital print here, but generally across labeling and packaging, there's there's issues around, who owns that material at the end of the value chain. There's certain materials like with pressure sensitive labeling, how is the release liner categorized? There's still a lot of unanswered questions with the packaging regulations, particularly in Europe, which is further ahead, than other parts of the globe in terms of legislation and regulations on packaging and packaging waste. So it's kind of in process, or some of it is in the works as we speak, and it's defined over time. But there's one thing for sure, that there's owner responsibility issues. There's different materials that are more recyclable and will kind of be impacted less by regulations than other materials. Mono materials, we can have a whole discussion for 3 hours on paper versus film, which we won't get into. But I think as we drill down and look at print in and of itself, digital print does reduce the amount of waste because it's on demand, so you don't have obsolete printed stock material. You also have, which we don't think of very often, but you also have other sustainability let's say, credentials of digital print, where you have no plates, you don't have the inks, substrates are less, less water, used, which is one of our scarcest resources on this planet, even though 2/3 of the planet is water. So there's, less likelihood of contamination with digital, technology. The equipment life is more flexible in terms of that compared to more conventional print technologies. So there's a lot of, let's say, indirect benefits that are often not thought of or not anticipated with digital print, that I think are part of this whole sustainability discussion, which has many faceted, from CO2 emission to, materials used to recycling to, the hardware that, we're using, for printing and packaging.
Yeah, I realize it's an enormous topic, and one that we're probably not going to get an answer to within the 40 minutes of the conversation today. It's quite ambitious to do so. But Russell, if I come to you, is there anything you'd add to what Corey's already taken us through about how digital printing specifically contributes to kind of more sustainable production practices?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just to echo what Corey picked on, I mean, absolutely. I think that the top one would be to kind of only print what you need. That stock control is really quite important. And, Corey touched on the, with digital, you don't need to produce plates. That's not just a one time. If there is a defect on the run, if there's a reprint, you need to reprint or remake those plates again. There's obviously a time element to that, but there's also a cost, but then there's sustainability, because you're having to obviously reuse that material that's not always easy to recycle. Where with digital, if you pick up a defect that we can pick up automatically now, it's a quick change either on the piece of artwork, change of material set, and away you go again. So there's a time element to it, but also an important sustainability element around that. The other piece that is not necessarily linked to the physical production of the job itself, but with digital, and what we offer is a retrofit capability. So we've touched on hybrid quite a lot, and that's not just as a kind of buying a press at point of sale. We can turn conventional flexo lines into full hybrids. So we can add that digital capability and prolonging that life of that press and offering new applications, as we discussed for the brand owner. So no longer do you need to scrap that, which is obviously not the most sustainable way. We can bring new life and get a lot longer production out of that piece of equipment. So that's an element that we also heavily focus on, and making sure that we bring technology to meet those needs today.
I think it's a great message, because I mentioned the earlier LinkedIn lives that we've done, and there was the productivity versus sustainability. Sorry, that where sometimes the big S word strikes fear into to manufacturers' hearts, because they expect it's going to mean I've got to rip and replace all of my technology, and it's going to cost me a fortune, and there's going to be a really long earn out time for me to be able to get an ROI on that new investment to be more sustainable. But hybrid really does mean, and retrofit hybrid specifically, that you can extend the life of your production equipment and still add additional opportunities to your workbook, I guess.
No, you can, and it's very flexible as well, and that's the important part here. You're not fixed into terms, so you could have one flexo station, a digital, and multiple flexo stations afterwards. So even as a retrofit, you can either put a digital on top of the line, you can open up the line and put digital, inside of the line. It's a very flexible, versatile solution going, from a hybrid point of view, that really does open up a huge amount of new capabilities for ultimately for the brand owner.
Yeah. So you can extend the life of your equipment while extending the capabilities for relatively incremental additional cost.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yes, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely message. It's a great one. We're all about trying to extend the life of equipment across everything that we do as Domino. It's about keeping that equipment running within the field and allowing customers to get better value out of their original investment. So it's a really strong message, and thanks guys for digging into the detail of it. Appreciate it. Yeah. Russell, you mentioned the issue of print defects and the faster response to those, and I'd like to dig a little bit more into those, because this is an area where technology's evolving quite quickly. So as you said, identifying print defects when they arise and as soon as they arise is really important. But practically speaking, it's pretty much impossible to do that through manual inspection by an operator once the job is running, particularly at the high production speeds that you have today. So Russell, if I come to you first, and then Corey, I'll ask you for a follow-up to that. But Russell, first, can you just give us a kind of background on what are you seeing in terms of the technology changes that are delivering against this kind of response to defects and inspection perhaps?
Yeah, no problem. I think first of all, I'll just get into the technology. It's important just to know as technology, and it's not just us, it's our peers in the industry and as well, that label presses, single pass corrugated presses, folding cartons, they're getting quicker. Yeah, the speed is increasing. We see in label market, it goes from 20, 30 up to 100 meters a minute now. These things are getting quicker. So there's an absolute need that if there is an error somewhere, whether it's produced by the equipment or whether it's an error, it needs to be detected and it needs to be either corrected or the press needs to be paused. And that feeds into the sustainability message, the cost message. All of that really is an element of that. So what we're seeing now is almost standard onto presses is a vision system, a camera system that can monitor in real time the print, and it can pick up on defects. It can pick up on things like hickeys, registration problems. It can even start picking up on barcodes now to ensure that it's the right barcode on the job. If there's a nozzle out, it can pick up on if there's a nozzle been dropped out on the press itself. All these important elements that an operator would not be able to see when the press is running because it's running at such a high speed. But also it's that unattended operation element. Roll to roll is going to be here for a long time, even though we've talked of the benefits of hybrid. An operator doesn't want to stand there while a whole roll of media is printed. There's a lot of other value added things that they can be doing, setting up the finishing line, the embellishment line, etc. So the ability to add a technology onto the press that gives the customer confidence that there is a problem, lots of different types of errors, it will pick up on that. It will either correct it if it can correct it, or it will put a pause on the press and put a notification out in many different ways to inform that there is a problem. You can then do a rapid correction of that and get the job running again. So we really are seeing the importance of vision systems more and more as technology gets much quicker.
And of course, it ticks both boxes in terms of minimizing production waste from a sustainability perspective, but also waste in the sense of just lost really on the basis of this is every time you create something that you can't sell, it's lost margin. So it ticks both boxes. Absolutely. Corey, any comment about that?
Yeah, I certainly agree, Russell, with everything you said. I think, as speeds and efficiencies inevitably increase and are being pushed to increase for a variety of reasons, cost as well as, sustainability reasons and profitability reasons, we're seeing the impact that, manual, approaches can't handle it. So we're going to automation. And automation is, being driven, very fast forward with more and more sophistication in terms of, vision systems and other things. But I think, as we look, forward to next generation, will probably involve AI, as part of that, next generation of efficiency and in technology. Even from the standpoint, I believe, and I'm not an AI expert at all, but from the standpoint of, anticipating defects and correcting the defects before they even happen. So, which will increase efficiency more. So I think we're going to be, probably sooner than later, as technology evolves so fast, we're probably going to see, AI and more advanced technologies anticipate defects so they don't even occur and correct that before they occur. And I think that's pretty exciting in terms of, just manufacturing, in terms of taking automation to another level that we don't even see today.
Yeah, I mean, AI is going to impact so much of everything that we do. Every single day I'm having conversations about the application of AI within our business, so it's no surprise. Sorry, Ross.
And it's just sorry, Jeremy, just on AI. I mean, it's there today in products that people don't even recognize. You look at planning and layout software as an example. There's technology out there today that can look at the right type of media, the size of the job, the color of the job, and start laying it out for best efficiency of how to print that. The next step is to bring that technology into the press, and like Corey says, whether that's from picking up on defects much sooner, or even setting up the job and automatically and understanding the best and most efficient way of producing it. So the technology is there today. It's not in every element, and it's for us and our peers in the industry to drive that even further. But it's here today, and it's accelerating very, very quickly.
Like you said, it's here today. It's not blue sky, sometime in the future. It actually has applications today. It's just a matter of when, not if, the applications will be brought into, to on press.
So thank you, guys. Russell, you mentioned a topic very close to my heart, which is 2D codes and variable data associated with them, and obviously the role of the vision system in perhaps verifying the data associated with 2D codes. But in terms of consumer engagement and what's obviously known as the unboxing experience for e-commerce, can you give us a little bit of an insight in the role of digital corrugated print and how that helps brand owners with improving that direct to customer experience?
Yeah, let's focus on corrugated in this element. I mean, if you look at corrugated today, it's predominantly been very, very high run lengths. It's been predominantly very analog, whether that's flexo or litho laminated. But we are absolutely starting to see the adoption of digital, and that's from two areas really. One area is the efficiency that we've already spoken about, the right machine for the right job, so that the shorter run. And then the other element really is around the consumer interaction with that piece of product that they receive, and every product can be different when it's digital. We've spoken about that. So I mean, a shoebox is a good example. We can digitally print a shoebox to exactly the right size of the shoe that's been ordered. You can put that person's maybe favorite football team, the face of it. You can put a barcode now on there that when they scan it with their phone, it pops up with a particular message on there for them. So this is really where we're starting to see it heading, and whether that's in a converter space or in the retail brand owner space, digital really starts opening up that, and it's all about that consumer engagement, but also that experience from the consumer, and it's only digital that allows that. So we are starting to see an adoption, certainly into corrugated, folding cartons coming. Labels has been there for a long time, but we're starting to see all the technology coming there. But yeah, we're absolutely starting to see that accelerate in quite a quick way.
Corey, just to comment there, I mean, in the research that you're doing and the consulting work that you do with clients, I guess digital corrugated is increasing in terms of importance and interest.
Yeah, digital in general is, and I think when we talk about consumer engagement, that's a really exploding area. We used to talk years ago of the moment of truth. The P&G moment of truth on the shelf, but that's been expanded to, it's not just the moment of truth, it's the experience after, and even sometimes before, during, and after that moment of truth, engaging the consumer with the product through the packaging or through the labeling, which is done via print and other technology. So it's just exploding and is quite exciting in terms of the ways consumers can be engaged, whether it's just with information or more interactive. And I think there's a lot we're going to be seeing in the next 2-3 years around that, whether it's for safety and security or whether it's just for entertainment or application of products. There's just such broad scope of how consumer engagement can be used.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we're pretty much out of time, as I expected. We've overrun and I've not controlled the time well enough, but I did want to get one kind of final question out of you guys, and I hope that I'm not going to be annoying the social media managers here at Domino as we run over a little. And that's the recognition that of course there's quite a few label converters who are already using digital and getting the advantage of that. But what kind of areas, Russell, if I come to you first, and then Corey, I'll ask for your comment as well. What options do they have to further improve their processes if they're already got a digital press?
Yeah, we've touched on a lot of things on the press itself, whether it's hybrid, AI, etc. But one element we haven't touched on, and that's really around the upfront workflow that's required to really meet the demands of digital. So digital, we've already spoken about, can take a lot more pieces of artwork in per day, per week, etc. And you need a way to be able to produce those, whether that's from checking the artwork, whether that's from laying it out in such a manner, color managing it, etc. You know, a manual process is not efficient enough anymore, where it could be efficient in more of an analog. So the upfront, whether that's a web to print solution linked into an MIS solution, linked into a full pre-press workflow. And I think label markets probably adopted that more than most. So we kind of call it lights out automation. You know, I think labels is close to lights out in certain areas than most. But if you look in other elements of the packaging sector, it's you know, it's still very much in its infancy. But that's definitely an area that really can drive efficiency and where they can take advantage of digital.
Thanks, Russell. And Corey, I mean, you mentioned all the trends at the start of this session. I presume, again, that even if you've adopted digital, that you foresee a load of additional technology changes and enhancements and improvements to efficiency and sustainability, et cetera, coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I think what's important, and from what I see, is that, you know, digital and conventional aren't competing anymore. They're more complementary to each other than, you know, one versus the other. With either hybrid technology or not, they're much more complementary to each other than they are, you know, competing with each other. We're not and haven't seen a complete displacement of conventional printing with the advent of digital. So I think that's testimony to that. I think also, you know, just to retouch upon our last, you know, part of the discussion was the area of automation and the area of consumer engagement and how they all come together with AI and, you know, being driven by, you know, digital technology, which is very flexible and, you know, can be unleashed, I think, to help facilitate, you know, these emerging trends that will impact the way labels and packaging is being printed and being used in the future.
Fantastic, guys. We've overrun. Apologies again to everybody that's joined us today.
I told you it would go fast.
Yeah, and likewise, I'm glad that you didn't expound on some of the things that you said. It could have taken us days to get through, Corey. So I appreciate your concision over a lot of the answers. But I just really want to thank you guys for giving up your time and joining us here today. I've learned a lot. It's been brilliant from my perspective, and that's what it's all about. I don't care about the audience. It's only me. I'm only doing this for my benefit.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I think it's been a really interesting conversation. Apologies to the audience. You know, if you've submitted a question you haven't had answered, as I said at the start, we will get all of those answered. So please, if you still have a question that you want to put in off the back of the last few answers, please take a quick second to put it through. We will answer every single question that comes in. So it's definitely worth doing so. But all that remains is me to once again thank you, Corey, thank you, Russell, for joining us, and thank you for joining us in the audience. We look forward to seeing you at the next Domino LinkedIn Live. Take care.
Thank
you,
you,
Jeremy.